The most commonly given advice to break the cycle of ending up with narcissists again and again is work on your childhood traumas. They say you should seal those cracks to prevent the narcissist from seeping through, from entering your psyche and from weaponizing your trauma patterns against you. They say you should work on your codependency and your trauma patterns and all that. And I agree with all of that. It's necessary, it's important, it's deep work. You cannot ignore any of that. But what about some kind of practical advice or practical suggestion that you can implement in real world, like right now, to prevent yourself from ending up with narcissists? Let's know what it is in today's episode. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your presence. Before we begin, please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because your subscription helps in spreading awareness about narcissistic abuse. Today's topic is how to prevent yourself from ending up in narcissistic relationships again and again. So the only thing that I would like to say today is raise your standards. That's it. Make access to you a privilege, and not everybody should be able to know you inside out. See, in today's world, and unfortunately this is the real truth, I am not being paranoid, a lot of people that you'll meet will lie on the spectrum of narcissism here or there. And a lot of people are exploitative, or that is what you should assume when exploring different new relationships. Just because someone seems to be helpful, compassionate, giving, generous, and empathetic does not mean that is who they are in reality. I know of narcissists who donate millions of dollars to charity organizations but are monsters behind closed doors, and nobody knows that. That is how they are. They're master manipulators, and they know how to fake normalcy to gain supply. My suggestion is you always have to assume that the person you are dealing with could be a narcissist until proven wrong. You always have to assume that there is an ulterior motive, which will help you to be at least cautious, because naturally the tendency of empaths is to just reciprocate empathy. If they feel like somebody is being kind, helping, generous, they'll do it 10 times more. But what they forget is that there are predators out there waiting for you to bring your guard down so that they can hunt you down. They can take advantage of who you are and what you have to offer. They feign those qualities while you have them. They are a part of your personality. As children, we are taught to be good to people, which is nice. Please be good to people. But we are also taught to see good in people. Okay, try to look for that, but also try to look for evil. If it shows itself, do not try to paint it as good. Do not justify it. Yes, there are many good people out there. I'm not suggesting you to be paranoid or whatever. What I'm trying to say is be very cautious. Do not take things on face value. Do not take it in as it is seen, as it is perceived by your eyes, because they can make you feel things. Do not trust what they present themselves as. Consistency is what you're looking for. Time is your biggest friend when trying to assess somebody, and testing them with your boundaries is the way to go. By raising your standards, I mean make it really difficult for anybody to reach your innermost core. Treat it as the biggest, the most brightest diamond. It's your gem. Can you give anybody access to it? Of course not, because they will try to steal it away. So why would you give access to it to any random person you meet? I mean, I know narcissistic abuse, how it works and so on. I'm just helping you to understand that it shouldn't be that easy for anybody to know you in every way, in every aspect. Your trauma, your childhood trauma may get triggered. So you have to be cautious of that as well. You have to recognize your triggers, like when someone pretends to be loving, and if you have experienced abandonment trauma or there was love deficit, you might feel attracted towards them because they pretend to fulfill a need of yours. You have to be introspective and ask yourself, from what place am I operating currently? Like, what is going on within my body? Is my logic being overshadowed by my emotion, especially by my trauma response? If yes, do I need to take a step back? Yes, take a step back. And you need to have a very clear picture of your value system. like authenticity. What do you believe in? Authenticity, loyalty, honesty, consistency, integrity. What is it that composes your moral system, call it that, or your moral compass? Who are you at your innermost core? And then try to create a congruency with that. Be who you are. That is what I have to tell you. That is what I have to say to you. Because if you become who you are at your core, you will be repelled and disgusted by what doesn't match that. That is when you have to take extra caution, because you have to ask yourself, what is the place that I'm operating from? Is my trauma pattern, is my emotion covering my logic? What's happening here? Just because they are coming across as very nice and loving doesn't mean they are that way. Do I need to take a step back? Your introspection is necessary. Your awareness of self is extremely important. The more aware you will become of who you are at your core, the more knowledge you will have of self and what is important to you, like what values are important to you. For example, authenticity, integrity, loyalty, honesty. What is it? What do you value the most? The easier it will become for you to filter those who do not match those values. For example, if authenticity matters to you, you will be repelled and disgusted by the person who is inauthentic, and you will feel the inauthenticity. You just have to let yourself know and let yourself believe what you see, because sometimes when the charm is expressed by the narcissist, it beguiles us and we forget what we are dealing with, because your intuition tells you something is wrong. Listen to your intuition. That is the next major part of your guard against narcissists and ending the cycle with them. Your intuition is your best friend. If you feel weird with somebody, no matter how nicely they present themselves, listen to it. It's always right, because it's getting the information that you cannot get or process consciously. Your gut is your second brain. Trust it. The other most important aspect of never ending up with narcissists again and again is befriending your loneliness. A lot of people are lonely nowadays, and sometimes this loneliness takes over and we end up choosing those we would have never thought of being around. Your loneliness can become your biggest enemy if you do not accept it, if you do not normalize it, and if you do not sit with it, because your loneliness might also bring up some trauma from your childhood, and that might compel you to find somebody so that you don't feel the pain that is unprocessed. When you're lonely with yourself, try to notice what's going on, what comes up, what kind of dreams do you keep having, and what do you feel. That is going to give you a clue about what you need to work on next. As they say, it is better to be alone than to be lonely with somebody. The same applies here, because you will be lonelier with the narcissist than you have ever been with somebody. It's better to just stay with it, stick to it, work with it, accept it, then reach out to somebody out of that desperation created by your own loneliness. In conclusion, with healing your core wounds, you have to raise your standards, which means you have to know what you want in your relationships. You have to create, a personality profile of who you want to be with in terms of your friends and your partners. You have to know what your values are, what you stand for, what is very important to you, and who violates them, who matches them. You have to give them time, because that is your biggest friend. You have to listen to your intuition, and you have to look for consistency, either in bad behavior or good behavior. Take it very slowly and try to look for bad in people. That is not the kind of advice that is given, or that's not something that you may have been told by your parents, but that is practical in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. With that, let's bring this episode to an end. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying with me until the very end. I really appreciate your presence as always. Until the next time, let the healing begin and continue.